The noise. Hi!
Hi, YouTube.
Probably
So,
shouldn't make the noise right now then.
so today we will be discussing Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Ooh, that's pretty. All white. Is
It's
that
the
is
inside
that
of
what
the
it,
book. Yes, the cover was holding on by a thread, so I kind of ripped it off. And the library will have to tape it back on.
okay. Um so for those who don't know, this is a retelling of the tale of Achilles and Patroclus and their meeting leading up to the Trojan War and the subsequent happenings that happened during that. If you're familiar with the story, um, Achilles is the son of a sea nymph and a human king, supposedly one of the greatest kings there is, a great man, blah, blah, blah. And his mother dips him in the river Styx so that he's immortal. They don't really go into that at all
Okay. Okay.
in the story. But the whole reason why you have an Achilles tendon is because she held him by the heel, and therefore that was his only vulnerable spot, and that's how he ends up dying, is because he gets shot in the ankle. um, so that's kind of the briefest overview of Achilles' life we can give you from the Iliad. Patroclus is a minor character. It's his best friend, sometimes referred to as his cousin, other times his lover. It's very complicated. Ancient Greece, you know. So they were very close, and he travels with Achilles to Troy, and his death spurns Achilles to take on Hector of Troy, which is the he kills Hector. Once Hector dies, Hector's brother Paris kills Achilles. And that's kind of a very, very brief overview of about 20 years of Greek history. History / possible myth.
20 years of history in what, 30 seconds?
Approximately, yeah. And there's all sorts of things in there on why they go. All like we're not going to get into the actual Iliad on this particular discussion.
Oh, good. I didn't like that book.
What?
Oh, good. I didn't like that book.
I've never actually sat down and read it. I just know the movie.
I did not watch the movie. I had to read about half the book in high school. And
Well,
so I only read a quarter of the book.
by the movie, I mean Troy.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
You should see it. It's really good.
I just remember
It's good. Brad Pitt, Eric Bana, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? He played Legolas.
Oh, that dude. Orlando.
Orlando Bloom, yes. And like a few other like minor actors that you might recognize from other like historical type movies. I believe the guy who plays one of the bad guys in Kingdom of Heaven is also Menelaus or Agamemnon. I can't remember which. But anyway, Song of Achilles focuses specifically on Patroclus's life. It starts out from his childhood. He was the long-awaited son of a king who discovered he hated his wife and was disappointed by his son, so he really kind of hated just both of them. Oh no. Oh no, Robin's out of sound. That's no good. I think we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. Hello?
Oh,
Hello?
that's a
Hello, can you hear
Gunda.
us? Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yay! Um, we could hear you that entire time, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Um, so uh
There we go.
Patroclus becomes the main character in this retelling. He
I like him.
he's a really, really like he's basically like just this adorable, sweet little like oh what how do they describe it? He's a cinnamon roll.
I'm thinking, you're talking about how to describe it in the book. They do
No,
not talk
no,
about cinnamon rolls in the
no,
book.
he's a total cinnamon roll. So he
I mean, but Achilles is basically until the end the cinnamon roll too.
kind of, yeah. So it starts out with his childhood where he's basically hated by his father and he doesn't really know his mother. He's kept apart from her because she's kind of um they imply that she's special needs. We don't actually know if she is at all. Just that her father hates her for being dim-witted and slow. Whether that actually means she is or not, it's ancient Greece. Who the F knows? Um
Oh,
For
I
for
have to
for
say,
all we know, she could have been a genius and made him look dumb, and
that
therefore
was
he
it.
hated her and
That
created.
was it.
Um,
Oh, question before we actually start getting in any farther.
what's up?
Did you happen to read the author bio?
I did not.
I swear this woman spent her entire life planning on writing this book or something.
Grew up in Philadelphia, has a bachelor's and master's in Latin and ancient Greek from Brown University, and has been teaching both languages for the past 9 years. She's also studied at Yale School of Drama, specializing in adapting classical tales for a modern audience. Oh my God. She's always wanted to write stories like this.
Okay, she spent her life trying to write this book.
Or at least like just in general, she just loves Greek myths. So she's the ways she's adapted it are definitely ways in which it makes sense to attribute it to a modern audience and to try to get her themes across. She stays very close to the like as close as she can to the original text, as I understand it. Anyway,
that was 20 years, 15 years ago. God, I'm getting old.
yeah, we are. I went roller skating, blading today. I hurt.
I'm sorry.
Um, and we so Patroclus is kept isolated from both his mother and his father's because his father disdains him. He's kind of isolated from other kids too. There's one point where he accidentally kills a nobleman's boy in a fight over something that the boy tried to take from him, and he gets exiled because of it. A lot of exiled young princes tend to go to why am I blanking on the name of Achilles? Pythia, yes. Pythia is where Achilles' father rules. And he takes in a lot of abandoned princes because apparently there's tons of them.
Oh my God. They made it seem like it was like dozens of them.
Yeah. And raises them to be fighters and basically loyal bannermen. Achilles chooses Patroclus to be his chosen companion.
I've seen way too much Hamilton.
Why is that?
Because I said right hand man.
And they're basically like that basically is like saying this is the person that I want to be with me for like by my side for forever. And so
Like me.
they start training together, they start doing everything together because of that.
Training.
There there are moments where you kind of see the sexuality side of the story come out. This book very much delves into their relationship as lovers, which made me really excited because that's a part of the story that's glossed over a lot in modern adaptations. Because ancient Greeks slept with each other a lot.
Oh my god.
Like a lot.
Well, I mean, when you're at war for 10 years, who wasn't gonna
and
sleep?
and a lot of it was like there was the like there they didn't have the same ideas of sexuality that we do. One thing, like, they paint Achilles' father to be such a good guy, but he literally rapes his wife. Like, that's how
Oh
he
my
makes her his wife. He holds down a sea nymph and rapes her, and that's how she's his wife. Like, that scene was really difficult for me.
I'm
Super
like,
difficult.
wait, what?
Yeah.
And they never talk about that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, because it was just the norm.
It's like, okay, look, you get this, you can have a goddess for a wife, but you gotta rape her. And he's like, okay.
And yet he's a good guy. Like the very fact that that is a thing is like it's just says so much about our culture. um so Achilles' mother wants him to be a hero, blah blah blah. She wants him to end up being basically a god. So that he can live forever, because while she hates humans, she actually seems to care about her son mostly. She thinks Patroclus is holding him back. Um,
Yeah, she hated
she
him.
Yeah, she did.
I mean,
Um,
if she could have chewed him up and spit him out, she would have.
yeah. Um, because basically she, like, for obvious reasons, she doesn't trust humans. I mean, she didn't before, and she definitely didn't after she was, raped and
At that point,
forcibly
she
wedded.
should have just like not trusted anybody.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the
Um,
other gods gave her up, said, "Here."
and so there's this whole thing where uh in order to escape, so when Patroclus is like 9, his father makes him compete for Helen of Troy. She's not Helen of Troy, but yet. But makes him compete for Helen's, the most beautiful girl in the world's hand. He's 9. Like, what the fuck is he thinking? Um Again, like, he goes to the same place that like he goes, Agamemnon's there, Menelaus,
All of the
Odysseus,
Greek heroes who aren't dead yet.
and who aren't married or spoken for. Um and some who are. Like
Yeah.
like Agamemnon and Odysseus are there, but they're already, I believe Agamemnon's already pledged to Clytemnestra at that point, and Odysseus is already pledged to Penelope, I believe her name is. Which is Helen's sister and cousin, respectively. But so part of the agreement to court Helen is that they make a pact that whoever wins Helen's hand, the other kings will not strike against. And if anybody steals her away, they all have to respond to bring her back to whoever she has chosen. Because they actually surprisingly let her choose her husband, which was crazy.
I just want to know, how did she choose so fast? Like, who plotted this?
I feel like she was told to choose Menelaus because it would have solidified family bonds with Agamemnon's family, since he was already marrying her sister. And I feel like Odysseus really had a big hand in that too, as he was marrying the cousin as well.
Oh my God, Odysseus. He's like
I
plot
feel like
after
I feel like
plot after
I
plot.
feel like before they ever even entered into that room, they already knew the outcome of that. And just wanted to get the other guys to agree not to attack them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so Patroclus signs this agreement because he's 9 and being forced to by his dad.
And his dad had no problem with any of this.
Yeah,
His dad sucks.
his dad
They
sucks
admit
so
that the entire
so
book.
hard, so hard. So then, after that, he gets exiled. He meets Achilles. They start falling in love. They kiss once, like at Pythia. And then after that, they go to train under Chiron, who, if you know anything about Greek myths, specifically even like adaptations like Percy Jackson, he's the centaur, right?
Young Hercules. Sorry. I actually have a vision of Chiron in my head because of Young Hercules.
Yeah, I reject Pierce Brosnan as Chiron. I will accept the fact that in the second movie of Percy Jackson, they made Anthony Stewart Head Chiron, and I will accept that Chiron.
I now need to watch this.
It's a terrible movie. Everything else is awful, but Anthony Stewart Head was Chiron, and that casting was just perfect. So they train with Chiron. He kind of lets them do their own thing and lets them know that, Achilles' mom can't see them there because she's a sea goddess. And so anyway.
And they're on a mountain.
Yeah, they're on a mountain. And so, and they're really hesitant of anywhere near water, but there's some sort of agreement with the gods that they'll leave Chiron alone to some extent. So they train, they fall further in love. They find out, like, finally, after years of being up on that mountain, Achilles' father sends some people saying, Helen's been taken by Paris, and Menelaus is calling all the world's fighters to go and bring her home. Because,
she's the one who sailed 1,000 ships.
Yes. So they do, like, they run because neither of them want to be involved in it. Achilles has been told that he'll die if he goes. Patroclus doesn't want him to die for obvious reasons. And
had he been told that he was going to die by that point?
I don't think so.
I think they ran because Patroclus doesn't want to fight because he can't fight. And Achilles just wants to go wherever the heck Patroclus is.
It's possible.
Because I want to say it was in the next spot where they find out.
So they run. Well, no, because they don't run. Achilles' mother whisks him away, and Patroclus follows to try and find him. Because Achilles' mother hides him in another place where a king is taking in a bunch of wards, except this time they're girls, and they disguise Achilles as a girl because apparently they can do that.
I mean, I can't imagine the way they describe Achilles that he would ever look like a girl.
I know, right? Let alone look like a girl convincingly enough to convince a girl's father while not convincing her and being able to get her pregnant. Because, yeah, that happened.
I mean, he's like defined as like manly man, even though he's only like 16.
Yeah.
But he looks like a girl and can put on the girl voice enough to convince everyone. In fact, he probably could have convinced what's her face if it wasn't for his mother trying to get, lock him in, because his mother presided over their wedding.
Right. I think the only reason why he was a convincing girl is because men of that time period barely ever talked to girls.
Okay, but
and also I think there was a lot of like covering, like there was a lot of like you didn't see a girl's face. She had veils and stuff. I'm not entirely sure on that, but we know that in the scene with Helen and her sister and cousin, when like they were all wearing veils. So
but I don't think at wherever this place is, any of them were veiled.
I don't know.
I mean, we are all speculating and speculating.
That's really the only way I can accept that he was a convincing girl.
I just can't. I broke something.
So Patroclus hunts him down, finds him, discovers he knocked a girl up, which is a huge betrayal because, they're gay. And then finally Odysseus arrives and he tricks them out of their he finds them out because he's Odysseus and he knows everything.
I am convinced Odysseus has to have a god just chilling out on his shoulder all the time saying,
he does, it's Athena. In the stories, his patron goddess is Athena, okay?
Okay, see, I read the Odyssey in 9th grade and read only a quarter of that one too.
So you missed all the parts that have to do with Athena then.
Probably. I remember, oh brother, where art thou?
He's beloved of the gray-eyed goddess.
Okay. They mentioned that in here.
And so because he's so wily and smart, he discovers the ruse, which, to be honest, probably isn't that great.
Okay, well, see, here's the thing. I am convinced, this is why I think he had a god sitting on his shoulder. Because they're like, oh, bring out the women. And he's like, wait, what? Because all the women, they weren't even there dancing. He's like, oh, by the way, bring out the dancing women because I'm pretty sure one of them is a dude.
Well, they're known for the dancing women. That.
I still think he had them bring them out on purpose.
It's possible. He's Odysseus, So he convinces them to fight for Troy by pulling Patroclus's "You made an oath," and then Achilles' desire for fame and fortune and whatnot. Which is when the mother admits that Thetis admits that she knows that he'll die if he goes. His name will be known forever, but Achilles will die if he goes and fights Hector of Troy. But he won't die until Hector dies. There's a prophecy thing that he won't die until after Hector's dead. And he's the only person who's capable of killing Hector. So they get stuck in some place for was it a year that they were waiting?
Something like 6 months.
It was a really long time. They were stuck. There was no wind whatsoever, creepy-tastic stuff. And
oh god, it must have been stifling. I don't know what the weather is like in Greece, but I feel like at least for part of that 6 months, it had to be stifling hot.
Well, it is the Mediterranean, so it's pretty warm. No wind would probably be pretty bad.
With thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of men there. Oh god.
The way that they decide to go about they convince Achilles to promise to marry Iphigenia, who is Agamemnon's daughter. What?
You can say that?
Yes, I can say Iphigenia.
I only know it. It's a good thing I was reading. It's okay, name with an I and kept going. Okay.
I took a Greek classics course in college that studied not specifically the Iliad or the Odyssey, but we actually did Agamemnon, which takes place like the Odyssey after the Trojan War, when Agamemnon gets home and the craziness that ensues. Like it's crazy.
I skipped that one.
And so they bring Iphigenia there because saying that she's getting married is the only way that her mother, Clytemnestra, will let her leave the house. And they bring her there to get married. She's all done up as a bride. And Odysseus positions Achilles in such a way to where he can't see what else is going on. He just sees Iphigenia walking up. And then all of a sudden, they grab her and hold her down and gut her. Because, yeah. Apparently, they decided that the gods, even though supposedly the Greek gods hate human sacrifice, needed a human sacrifice.
They wanted a human sacrifice.
And then the wind starts blowing. Because apparently the Greek gods make no sense.
Well, I mean,
and that actually leads into Agamemnon too, because Clytemnestra's pissed not only about the whole, you chased after my sister who clearly didn't want to be with your brother anymore, but also you killed my daughter. And then they're gone for 20 years and she has a lover and she's all like, let's kill my husband. And I can't really blame her.
Like the plot of a Dark Hunter book.
I know, right? I can't really blame her. So they manage to set sail and they make it to Troy, where they start raiding because they can't actually get inside Troy because the walls are too strong. And when they start raiding, they start getting booty in the form of gold and goods and girls, because the raids brought back profits. The first girl that's brought back, his name is Briseis. And this is one of the things that was different in the movie Troy. In Troy, she was actually cousin to Hector and Paris. In this, she's just some random farm girl. And she is originally Agamemnon plans to take her as a war prize, but Achilles, since he's the best of men, requests her because it's technically his right. And
because Patroclus said, please.
Because Patroclus wanted to save her. Because Patroclus is such a cinnamon roll and cares about other people. That's the one thing that makes that, to me, Achilles is in a cinnamon roll, because he doesn't give a crap about anybody but him and Patroclus. And even Patroclus only comes second to him. His pride is more important than everybody. And then there's Patroclus. And then like everybody else is just nothing to him, including the wife and child that he left behind in whatever the heck that land was. Yeah, messed up book. And so he takes her as his war prize, and every war prize that Achilles earns gets to live and be happy and not be raped. Because yeah, he's gay. So when they bring her to their tent, she's nervous and scared because like she knows she's a war prize and what happens to war prizes. And to comfort her, because they don't speak the same language, Patroclus just leans over and kisses Achilles right in front of her to be like, see, we're not going to hurt you. And
I'm sure Achilles was very happy at that point.
They start building a relationship sort of thing. In the movie Troy, Briseis falls in love with Achilles. In this book, she actually falls in love with Patroclus. And she brings up a very good point at one point that she knows he can't love her the way that she loves him, but she can also give him a family and a home in a way Achilles can't. And I think she even at one point offers to be his wife and mother of his children while he's still like lovers with Achilles, because what does she care? It's not like he's gonna knock Achilles up or anything. Because Achilles has a wife and a family. He does. He has a wife who is having his son. And
I'm not sure she had the son.
By that point, I do think she had the son back in some other land. And
his mother took the son.
Yes, to raise. And she was just offering to give him the same opportunity because, let's face it, in that day and age, that was the main way to get your, like nobody's going to remember you if you don't have kids sort of thing. There's actually a whole thing where they talk about how most people enjoy in war like this, they enjoy being able to say that they wiped a family off the map. And Achilles keeps, during one specific battle, Achilles keeps the last son alive of a certain name because he didn't want to completely wipe them off the map. He didn't feel that was fair. So a wife and a family, even if you weren't straight at this time, was still pretty important because it was a way to have progeny. It was a way to have a life because no matter what, he couldn't be out completely and totally open. Everybody knew they were sleeping together, but nobody really talked about it because you didn't talk about those things. But so it was it would have been a suitable cover to claim that he and Achilles were just friends and therefore not besmirch Achilles' name with gayness, because apparently being gay happened all the time, but nobody wanted to be gay.
So nothing's changed.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So there comes a point where Agamemnon takes a war prize who's promised to the god Apollo. And the god attacks the Greek encampment because, of course, he does. It's one of his virgin goddesses. He's not very happy that she's been taken and raped. That's his job.
That also sounds like a Dark Hunter book.
Yeah. And so because of that, Agamemnon refused to give her up, even after the
he was a jerk.
Oh yeah, Agamemnon's such an ass. They basically, when they finally force him to give her back to Apollo, they've
been ravaged by a plague.
Yeah, because Apollo's got a plague. As Agamemnon takes Briseis because to make up for the loss of his trophy, which is basically like taking Achilles' honor. Achilles, even though he doesn't give a crap about Briseis, then feels slighted because, once again, Achilles' honor is most important. Nobody else, his pride is more important than anybody. Never mind the fact that she's going to be raped by Agamemnon. No, his pride's what's important.
She's just a woman.
Yeah, and literally
especially when you're not attracted to them either. Oh yeah, no.
And literally everybody was nothing to him except Patroclus. So he refuses to fight anymore. Patroclus tries to save Briseis because he does care about her. He may not love her in the same way that he does Achilles, but he does care very deeply for her. It's very, very, once again, he's a cinnamon roll. He cares deeply for everybody.
They're family.
Yes. And he makes a deal with Agamemnon that he'll try and get Achilles to step down on his whole, I'm not going to fight anymore. My Myrmidons aren't going to fight anymore. And
but Achilles was like, at this point, Achilles basically turned like evil to me. Because his plan was to actually have Agamemnon rape her so he can go and kill Agamemnon.
Yes, like literally people are nothing to him.
And it's just like, oh.
What I really want, I kind of, to me, I started getting those feelings back when he was with all the girls and he knocked this woman up and he Patroclus is sitting there he just doesn't even see her, she's nothing to him. And it goes above and beyond just not being attracted to her, not wanting to be with her. It's she's literally dirt under his feet. He does not give one crap. Which I think most gay guys at least have some sympathy for pregnant women. I don't know, they at least don't treat that don't not even it's hard to explain. And then when you find I factor in the fact that it is his kid, you'd think he'd feel something. But no. He's basically a classic sociopath. The only person he cares about is Patroclus. And even then, he doesn't put Patroclus above himself.
I mean, he was not like that back in that place that we can't remember the name of, and we have yet to look it up.
The place with the dancing girl?
I mean, we both have books sitting next to us, and look that up. No.
It's a big, long word, and it starts with L.
Oh, does it? I forgot. But I mean, back when he was there, he may not have cared about the other guys, but I mean, he talked to all of them.
I don't think he ever actually talks to his wife, though, in any scene you see them together.
But see, I think he, in my mind, he might still be mad at his mother. Because that was all of his mother's doing.
This is true. I
did not mean to actually start you on the hunt for the name of this island.
I know. I'll find it. But so Lycomedes is the father. Lycomedes, where is it? Come on, I know it's here somewhere. I know it's here.
Lycomedes. Somewhere. His father's name is Peleus.
No, the king Lycomedes is the father of his wife.
Oh, okay. I see that. Never mind.
Skyros. That's where it is. Skyros. I was wrong. Lycomedes, the L word was the father of Diomedia or whatever. Yeah, I can pronounce it.
Say what's her face? She would be what's her face from me for the rest of this.
So, Patroclus starts scheming to try and get Briseis back because he does deeply care about her and doesn't want her to get raped because he cares about people.
and rape is pretty awful.
Yeah. And he gets that. He cares about people. And he also really cares about most of the Greeks. because the entire time the Trojan War is going on, he is working in the medical tents.
Infirmary.
Yeah, he basically has saved dozens of men's lives over the course of the 10 years that the war has been raging. And he ends up concocting this convoluted thing where he'll go out in Achilles' armor, and that'll
because the Trojans are kicking their butts without Achilles.
Yes. And
slaughtering them left and right.
That'll comfort the people, the other fighters, thinking that Achilles is with them.
And it will scare the Trojans.
Yes. And still maintain Achilles' stand of, I'm not going to fight anymore. And as we know, Patroclus is a really bad fighter. Why does it sound like what?
Like the shutdown. It's like, I will not, like both sides are just like, I will not do this. And here we have Achilles and Agamemnon like, I will not give up.
And meanwhile, it's killing them all.
What did you say?
Meanwhile, it's killing them all?
Yeah. And what did the shutdown do to us?
Well, it didn't hurt them at all. It just hurt us.
And did the shutdown hurt the people who were voting on it? Except for their honor?
Right.
I feel like I need to take a class on this now.
So he goes out, and as we know, Patroclus is not a very well trained fighter. So
he's complete crap.
So yeah, it does not go well. They find out there's one point where Achilles' mother comes and tells Achilles that there was a new prophecy that Hector will not die till the best of the best man of the Greeks dies, or something to that effect. Like that person will die first, and then Hector will die, and then Achilles will die, right? And so obviously that person can't be Achilles, because even though he's the best fighter or whatever, because obviously he has to live till after Hector dies. Now, anybody reading these books and seeing the people that are in these books knows Patroclus is the only halfway decent person in these books. That's male, anyway.
That dang Y chromosome.
Yeah. And so he's obviously the best of the Greeks in that regard. Like he's the best person among them. And he of course goes out dressed as Achilles. Hector thinks it's Achilles. Hector kills him because he thinks it's Achilles. Achilles, which the ending of the book is really weird because it's all shown from the point of view of
Patroclus's ghost?
Patroclus's shade, because of course it is. Because he's dead.
I mean, the entire book is from Patroclus's point of view.
Right, and
it's like, oh, he's dead. I wonder who's gonna everything next chapter. Nope, still Patroclus.
It's all first person, so it's not like it's even like third person POV to where you're seeing everything. No, it's first person. Patroclus is telling you what's going on in his life.
And how he's feeling about being dead.
Yes, he talks a lot about that.
Well, if you were dead, what would you talk about?
Sure. And he also obviously still wants Achilles to live because he loves Achilles and doesn't want him to die. He also wants Briseis to be okay. So what happens then is, so now Achilles, only person that he gives two craps about, is dead at Hector's hand, and so of course he wants to kill Hector. He wants nothing else. He knows it's going to lead to
he spent the past 10 years actively avoiding killing Hector.
Right. And he knows he's going to die after Hector dies, but he wants to die now.
Suicide mission.
What? Yeah, it was a suicide
Suicide
mission.
mission.
So he goes out, beats Hector to death, drags him through the streets, does all that awful stuff, feeds him to the dogs, etc. Gets begged by Hector's father, who managed to sneak out of Troy and into the Greek encampment to beg him for his son's body back. Now, if you know anything about Greek myth, burying the body is very, very important. Their culture believes in like a body must be buried. It has to, preferably within a certain amount of time, with stuff to transport them across to the river. Like, there's
Are those
specific
the people
rituals
with the coins so they could pay their fare?
in certain myths. Yes. So there's very specific rituals that have to be done in order for the spirit to move into the afterlife and not be a shade on Earth the way Patroclus is. So those and
like his shade form keeps begging Achilles to bury him.
yes, because he wants to be buried with, like, one of the big things that's focused on in this is being buried with some sort of memory thing on it to know that that person is buried there, right? It becomes very important as things go on. So obviously I'm blanking on his name. Priam doesn't want his son being a shade for all eternity, so he's begging the man who killed his son to let him take his body and perform the rituals that need to be done, or at least what's left of it anyway. And I can't remember if he does or not. Did he?
At some point he does. At some point he does.
So I think his mother actually has a hand in convincing him of that, if I remember correctly. But it's been like 3 weeks since I finished this, and I've just been waiting on you.
Okay, but you love me.
I do. So then he goes out to fight some more, and of course he dies because that's the way that these things work. And anybody who
look, we said you were gonna die, you're gonna die.
And anybody who knows the story knows that, you know, Patroclus, Hector, Achilles, Trojan horse, death of all Trojans, 10 years trying to get back to Greece.
Oh, see, I didn't know all of that. I just remember the horse.
Yes. Yeah, it takes, so they've been in Troy for 10 years, and it takes another 10 years to return to Greece for all of them. Because like the fleet gets broken up by Poseidon, and they get sent all sorts of different ways, and Odysseus sleeps with like 50 million people.
I remember, I'm like, I remember that much from 9th grade. I'm like, how do you accidentally sleep with someone for 7 years?
Yeah, and then you get home to your wife and are like, I love no one but you. Like, really?
I'm like, I'm sorry, she could not have tricked you into bed for 7 years.
And so they,
wasn't it Circe who did that?
Calypso.
Okay, that sounds right.
Circe's the one who turns his men into pigs.
I told you, I only read a quarter of the book.
Yeah,
15 years ago.
He meets and sleeps with 2 witches, one of whom turns all his men into pigs. The other of whom keeps him for 7 years. So once Achilles dies, his son, who's like 12, comes and is apparently looks like he's
even
like
a bigger jerk than Achilles.
Yes, because he's been raised by the sea nymphs.
Specifically the jerky one. I mean, she has a reason, but still.
Yeah, I can't get over her hatred of Patroclus the cinnamon roll, though.
I mean, her son is going to be a god. He cannot be laying with that mortal. Just that one.
Yeah, because apparently he can sleep with female mortals because they're nothing.
Well, I mean, He has to have kids.
So she like he's dead, his son arrives,
His
and
12-year-old son is like, "Yo, I'm here.
and
I'm gonna save
apparently
you
is an
all."
even better fighter and somehow looks like he's like an adult or something. I don't know. It's
Well, I mean, Achilles looked full grown at like 14.
right. And so his son, so when Achilles kept Patroclus's ashes because he intended that once he was dead, their ashes be commingled and they're buried together. Super romantic, right? By the time the son gets there, their ashes are already commingled because the Greeks were actually, for some reason, abiding by his wishes,
Wishes.
afterlife wishes, which is great. His son refuses to put Patroclus's name on the
Monument.
monument
The
to
gravestone, whatever.
right. And so,
My
even though
God, I
now
can hear that.
Now Patroclus is buried, he still can't move on because the gravestone doesn't have his name on it.
Because in evil boy child's mind, he was just a slave, and why would you why would you besmirch his father's his
He
father's
was
good
no one.
name?
He was unimportant and he was no one. And I forget where Patroclus realizes. So there's a point where he begs Pyrrhus to give him peace. They bring a white heifer to the tomb's base, and Pyrrhus stops him. A single heifer, is this all the same you would do for any man? My father was Aristos Echion. He was the best of you, and his son is proven better still, yet you stint us. Pyrrhus's hand closes on the shapeless billowing dress of the Princess Polyxena and yanks her towards the altar. This is what my father's soul deserves. He will not, he dare not. As if in answer, Pyrrhus smiles. Achilles is pleased, he said, and tears her throat open. The dead are supposed to crave blood, but not like this. Not like this. There's a point where it talks about what happens to Pyrrhus. So the whole time he's there and just existing alone, forgotten, Thetis comes. We're not entirely, it doesn't exactly say how long
It doesn't, no.
afterwards. She comes and she talks to Patroclus's shade, and he asks her why she's not with Pyrrhus. And something flickers in her eyes. He is dead. I'm fiercely glad. How? It's a command, almost. He was killed by Agamemnon's son. For what? She does not answer for some time. He stole his bride and ravished her. And so, yeah, that's how Achilles' son dies. Because, of course he does, because he's an asshole. And finally, Thetis inscribes Patroclus's name on the tombstone next to Achilles so that he can move on and be with her son, because somehow she's finally moved past it all.
Well, I think it helps that, talking to Patroclus, he was he had all of these memories of Achilles.
Right, good memories, pure ones, not
Yes.
his
Not him killing people.
Right, like he had memories of him playing the lyre and things like that, like just small little moments where he was actually a relatively good person by Greek standards. I was gonna say a good person, but I can't do that. Like almost none of these people were good people.
So there was one part, yeah, I think it's after Patroclus dies and before Achilles goes into battle, where Agamemnon does bring Briseis back.
Mm-hmm.
And he says something along the lines of, I don't know what came over me. I don't know why I did this. Which felt very biblical to me, reminded me of God hardening the Pharaoh's heart over and over and over again to keep the...
Right.
Thank you.
I know what you mean. How God hardened Pharaoh's heart until he took his son away, and then he was like, leave. And then he goes, no, I've changed my mind. All those slaves need to come back.
I mean, that is just a horrible... Like, who wrote that story?
Moses.
All right. That's just...
The hero.
Well, that explains a lot. That explains a lot about that story.
Right? But yeah, so I very much enjoyed this book. I really liked the in-depth look at Patroclus and Achilles' relationship as lovers, and how even though they were lovers and they still weren't like at all a healthy relationship in any way.
I like that they had an unhealthy relationship.
That's
what you just said. That's what you just said.
Like, it's important to show that pretty much all relationships in that period of history were really, really ridiculously unhealthy. All the
ones we have evidence for.
Right. There's certain aspects like that are shown in this of Odysseus and Penelope's that seem kind of good. Like, he chooses her for her brains, not her beauty. He chooses her he chooses her even though at the time Helen's still available. Clytemnestra, I believe, was still available when he was promised to Penelope. He builds her their own bed, that sort of thing. Like, there's a lot of things that he respects about Penelope. Obviously,
I'm
not
tired
enough
of hearing about you in your marriage bed.
Obviously, not enough to remain faithful, but men at that time period weren't expected to at all. So,
especially when you've been at war for 10 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We haven't been home in 10 years. I feel like that should be like, both parties should be like, yeah, no, I slept with other people. Sorry.
Except, men could. Girls could.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So it's an interesting look into how relationships outside of male-female relationships could have worked at this time, to the extent that we know about them, because while they happened and we know they happened, they weren't openly discussed. There's just lots of evidence of, two people of the same sex who are really good friends and live together. Like, it's all over the place, everywhere for thousands of years. But gayness is new.
And also, whichever African country it is has no gay people.
There's an African country with no gay people?
Well, I mean, the guy in charge says there's no gay people.
Okay. And I think
gotta say
4 stars.
I gotta say, because it has to be because of her, what is it? I lost the cover. I have to find it before I take the book back. because of her master's or PhD or whatever it is in ancient Greek, there was a lot of like you know how most books where the character isn't actually speaking English, they just keep pretending it's English.
Mm-hmm.
In this book, it constantly makes mention that this is clearly not English.
Right.
It's like,
They mention the languages that they're speaking, even though it's written in English for us to be able to actually read it.
and I mean, they translate it. Either they write the Greek word and then translate it, or say, in our language, this means this.
Right.
It's like,
So my review, I gave it 4 stars. Said, "Woo, tragic gay love story. I really love the way they showed Achilles and Patroclus's relationship, and that I'm excited for Circe, which is our next one. What would you say that Song of Achilles got from you as far as like a rating goes?"
many, many, many stars.
Many, many, many stars. So you really liked it? You enjoyed it?
Yes.
Even though it took you forever to read it?
I have been busy.
Yeah, I know. You're
I have
moving
a
and stuff.
solo to learn by Tuesday.
And you're moving and stuff too.
There is a box in front of me.
So our next read is Circe.
Which is the book that made me want to read that one.
Right. Originally, Robin just wanted to read Circe, but I said if we were going to read Circe, we had to read Song of Achilles first.
Well, I mean, Circe appeared on my library's webpage as one of their recently reviewed books. And I'm like, oh, that sounds. I didn't even read the review. I just saw the cover of the book and said, that sounds interesting.
So this is the daring, dazzling, and highly anticipated follow-up to the New York Times bestseller Song of Achilles that brilliantly reimagines the life of Circe, formidable sorceress of the Odyssey. In the house of Helios, god of the sun, and the mightiest of the Titans, a daughter is born. But Circe is a strange child, not obviously powerful like her father, nor viciously alluring like her mother. Turning to the world of mortals for companionship, she discovers that she does possess power, the power of witchcraft, which can transform rivals into monsters and menace the gods themselves. Threatened, Zeus banishes her to a deserted island where she hones her occult craft, tames wild beasts, and crosses paths with many of the most famous figures in all of mythology, including the Minotaur, Daedalus and his doomed son Icarus, the murderous Medea, and of course, wily Achilles. Odysseus, sorry. I don't know where my brain was going.
Oh my God, you are reading it and you got it wrong?
I know, right? But there is danger too for a woman who stands alone, and Circe unwillingly draws the wrath of both men and gods, ultimately finding herself pitted against one of the most terrifying and vengeful of the Olympians. To protect what she loves most, Circe must summon all of her strength and choose, once and for all, whether she belongs with the gods she is born from or the mortals she has come to love. With unforgettably vivid characters, mesmerizing language, and page-turning suspense, Circe is a triumph of storytelling, an intoxicating epic of family rivalry, palace intrigue, love, loss, as well as a celebration of indomitable female strength in a man's world. I'm excited for it.
Is it bad that I heard something about her being alluring? I'm like, but Odysseus, like not being alluring, I'm like, but Odysseus slept with her.
Skill and sharpness.
I remember them.
Yeah, I'm excited. But
that was me thinking, rock and hard place.
Did we settle on what we were doing next after Circe?
We're gonna have to find a way for me to read Twilight without destroying the book or my Kindle.
Maybe take it like a chapter at a time. If you start feeling angry, just put it down for a day or so.
I hear the beginning is really like the first half of the book is really slow.
I read about 5 pages in and threw it at a wall in high school.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, I was 15.
It's really funny when I was almost thinking about pairing up that book with the S&M, 50 Shades of Grey, and it's like reading that and then reading Kushiel's Dirt, and then reading the next one and then reading Kushiel's Avatar. Not Avatar, that's not next. The next one,
We should do that. That might actually break it up enough to where we don't break things. And we can actually do a comparison of like bad S&M versus good S&M.
and just happy book in general. Oh my god, I love the Kushiel books.
I don't know if I describe those as happy books.
I mean, they're. Oh god, you're right. I mean, she gets tortured a lot.
I mean, it's a really good book, but I wouldn't describe it as a happy book.
Well, I mean, she does get skinned in one of the books.
Yes.
The first book. Oh shoot. I mean, it's a long book. By the time you even remember that, you're gonna forget.
I think you were kind of on board with alternating Twilight with the Lunar Chronicles too, right?
I don't think I forgot that part in the conversation. Like I remember seeing the words Lunar Chronicles. I just don't remember what we said.
I think you said ooh to that. It's retellings of fairy tales in the future.
I think I went to work after that.
Okay. Well, retellings of fairy tales in the future. Like Cinderella's cyborg and yeah. So because I'm gonna have to wrap this up. So we will definitely be reading the first Twilight next because we want to try and hit like not next after
Cersei.
We will be reading the first Twilight book and we'll be deciding what we're going to alternate it with. Because I think you might want to space out it with Blood Witch or you might break.
Or I might just drive to your house and break you.
So my vote is to do Lunar Chronicles alternating, and then we can slip Blood Witch in between the last two Lunar Chronicles books. And I think you'll really enjoy it. What?
How does he get his book? How does he get his own book?
Because he's an important character.
Isolde doesn't have a book yet.
That is one thing that I'm upset about, is that he has a book before Isolde has a book. I also was upset that Merrick got a book before Isolde got a book, and Ryber
got a novella
before Isolde got a book. I feel like Isolde should have had the second book, personally speaking. But
okay, you tweet that to Sarah Dennard.
Susan
Dennard.
Okay, so we will be joining you as soon as we finish Circe, or maybe not as soon. It all depends on what's going on. Our lives have been really busy lately.
I have a dance show in a month.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will be getting that to you, finishing up Circe, hopefully not too long. And then discussing it. And after that, we'll be starting Twilight and alternating it with something to break it up a little bit.
I'm just going to text you like, yeah, I'm sorry. I put it down and read an entire another book in the meantime.
I'm probably going to do a lot of that too. But yeah, so we'll let you guys know next time what we'll be alternating it with, in case you want to skip certain ones. I don't recommend skipping the Twilight ones. I have the feeling they'll be hilarious. But there might be long spaces between them. Might be. Maybe. Probably. I mean, come on, we've put off reading them for what, like 20 years almost?
Oh God, are they that old?
They're pretty old. Like I said, I threw it at a wall when I was.
Am I that old?
We are pretty old. We are. I don't know exactly when it came out. I don't think it's quite 20 years.
I don't think so, because I don't remember it If it was out when I was in high school, it had to be when I was like a junior or senior because I don't remember it. I was so busy reading Harry Potter.
It was originally published in 2005.
Junior.
October 5th, 2005 is
Senior.
Achilles Day.
Senior.
So yeah, I was like, I got recommended it my junior year. So I was 16 when I threw it at a wall. But still, I was like perfect age for reading it, and I threw it at a wall. now I'm a mature adult, and yeah, this is gonna be interesting. Keep an eye out for the live tweets. I know I didn't do a whole lot of live tweets for Song of Achilles. I kind of breezed through it pretty quickly and was distracted with a whole bunch of other stuff. But I have a feeling like Twilight's going to be a lot of, oh my God, what am I reading? Somebody kill me now.
I mean, okay, this is a warning. If I live tweet, there is a high chance that there will be swear words.
There's always swear words in mine. Yeah, I actually keep it kind of PG in this way more than I do in the live tweets. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that. I'll try to make sure I do live tweet updates on CRC as spoiler free as they can be. It's kind of hard to keep those completely and totally spoiler free. But keep an eye out for it. And we will see you guys later. Bye.